The grand hall of the Zerath Dominion was filled with the sound of cruel laughter. Thousands of alien nobles stood around a circular platform made of silver stone, blue flames burning above their heads. At the center stood Dr. Elias Grant, a human from Earth. Small and calm among giants, his eyes filled with quiet fire. Before him stood the alien warlord Thrazok, ruler of 100 worlds. His body covered in shining armor made of living metal, his eyes like burning stars. In his hand he held a staff carved with bones of fallen enemies. Beside him was a strange figure, a girl with pale skin, silver hair, and empty eyes that did not move. "This," Thrazok said with a mocking smile, "is my daughter, Princess Kayla. She was once proud and strong. Now she cannot walk, cannot speak, cannot rule. I give her to you, human. Heal her if you can." The crowd burst into laughter. The echo shaking the hall, Elias did not move. He looked at the girl lying on the platform. Her body motionless, her breath weak. He saw not a joke, but a life trapped inside silence. "You mock her?" Elias said softly. "And you call yourself her father?" The laughter stopped. Thrazok's smile faded. "Careful, human," he growled. "You speak to the one who could crush your planet with a single order." Elias met his gaze. "Unafraid. Maybe," he said, "but you cannot crush what you already lost." The room went silent. The aliens looked at each other. Whispers filled the air. The human had insulted the warlord before his court. Thrazok laughed again. Louder this time. "Bold words from a creature whose kind still crawls on the ground," he said. "I give you 1 moon cycle, human. If you fail to heal her, you will join the bones beneath my throne." Elias bowed slightly. "Then I better get to work," he said calmly, later that night. Elias was escorted to a cold chamber deep beneath the alien citadel. Kayla lay on a crystal bed, glowing lights above her scanning her still body. Alien machines surrounded her like silent monsters. Elias placed his hand on her wrist, feeling a faint pulse. "You're alive," he whispered. "That means there's hope." The guards laughed outside the door. "The human talks to a corpse," one said. "He'll be dead before dawn." Elias ignored them. He opened his small case, filled with human medical tools and experimental nanotech, Earth's best science mixed with courage. He began studying her readings. Strange signals pulsed through her nerves, patterns that looked more like codes than illness. Hours passed, the hum of machines surrounded him. Kayla's eyes remained closed, her body unmoving. But when he touched the back of her neck, a spark of energy passed through his hand. He gasped softly, looking at her face for a moment. Her eyes flickered, a faint glow deep inside. He leaned closer, whispering, "Kayla, if you can hear me, blink once." Nothing, only silence. Still he smiled faintly. "That's all right," he said. "We have time." Far above the citadel, in the warlord's throne room, Thrazok watched the recordings through a holographic screen. His eyes narrowed. "He actually believes he can fix her," he said. His tone amused. One of his generals stepped forward. "My lord, why let him try? It is an insult to our honor." Thrazok chuckled darkly. "Because it entertains me, and when he fails, all will see that humanity's kindness is useless." Meanwhile, in the chamber below, Elias worked through the night. He connected the alien neural matrix to his portable Earth scanner. Streams of data filled the room, alien symbols mixed with human text. It was chaos, but in that chaos, Elias found a rhythm. He adjusted the nanoprobes. Guiding them into her bloodstream, they glowed faintly, spreading warmth through her cold skin as the readings changed. Elias noticed something. Her brain activity was not flat. It was locked, like a door sealed with purpose. "This isn't sickness," he whispered. "It's a cage." He leaned closer to her. "Someone did this to you, didn't they?" A single tear rolled down her cheek. Elias froze, staring in shock. She could not move, yet her body reacted deep inside her. A spark of awareness flickered like a dying star refusing to fade. He reached out and wiped the tear gently. "I don't know if you can hear me," he said, "but I'll find a way to reach you." Outside, thunder rolled through the alien sky. The warlord's guards looked at the storm and laughed. "Even the heavens mock him," one said. But in the cold silence of the chamber, something unseen stirred. Kayla's faint heartbeat grew stronger. Her neural cage shimmered. Reacting to human touch for the first time, Elias sat back, exhaustion in his eyes, whispering, "Tomorrow we begin again." And in that moment, a faint whisper brushed against his mind. Soft, fragile, but real, "Help me." He froze. Looking around, no one was there, but the voice had been clear. It came not from the air, But from inside his own thoughts, his eyes widened slowly. "Kayla," he whispered. No answer came, only the faint hum of alien machines. But he smiled anyway, because for the first time, he knew she was still in there, waiting to be freed. And though the galaxy laughed at humanity, that night in a forgotten alien chamber, a miracle had already begun. The next morning came quietly. A pale blue sun rose over the alien city. Light filtered through the silver towers of the Zerath Dominion. Deep inside the citadel, Dr. Elias Grant had not slept. His eyes heavy but focused, he sat beside Princess Kayla's still body. Studying the strange readings that glowed across his console, he could still hear that faint whisper from the night before. Soft, desperate, and real. It haunted him and gave him hope at the same time. He looked at her face again, her pale skin smooth as crystal, her eyes closed but trembling slightly. "You're in there, aren't you?" he said quietly. "I heard you." No answer came, but something inside him refused to give up. He began connecting new circuits to the alien neural matrix, using both human nanotech and the crystal interface of Zerath medicine. His goal was not to repair her body, but to unlock her mind. Hours passed. The machines hummed softly. Lines of data scrolled across the screens. Elias felt a sudden wave of dizziness. He blinked and realized the console lights were flickering in rhythm with his heartbeat. Then for a brief moment he saw something, a flash of blue light, and he wasn't in the room anymore. He stood in a vast, endless space made of stars, floating between fragments of memory. "Where am I?" he whispered. A voice echoed softly around him. In my mind, he turned and saw her, Kayla, standing among the stars, dressed in white light, her eyes glowing softly. She looked whole here, alive but sad. "You heard me," Elias said, breathless. Kayla nodded. "I have been trapped here for years," she said slowly. "My father sealed my consciousness inside this prison when I defied him." Elias's heart tightened. Why would he do that? Her eyes dimmed. "Because I showed mercy to your kind, he called it weakness." Elias looked around. The space around them pulsed with locked doors, chains made of light. "So this is what's keeping you paralyzed." "Yes," she whispered. "And it feeds on my fear." He stepped closer. "Then we'll break it." Kayla shook her head. "You cannot. Human mind and alien code do not belong together. If you stay too long here, you will burn." Elias smiled faintly. "Then let's make it quick." Suddenly, the vision shattered. He gasped and fell back into reality, the console sparking. His nose bleeding slightly, he wiped it off, smiling through exhaustion. "It worked," he whispered. "She's alive in there." He began documenting everything. Writing in his log, subject Kayla Vera, cognitive activity confirmed. Subject is conscious, trapped in internal digital confinement. The rebuild neural bridge. Outside, the alien guards stood bored, laughing as they played with their weapons. One of them said, "That human still works?" He should have given up by now. Inside, Elias didn't stop. He began sending tiny bursts of code through the interface, pulses that mirrored human brainwaves. Kayla responded faintly each time, her heartbeat syncing with his signals in her mind. Kayla felt warmth spreading for the first time in years. A connection, a presence that wasn't cruel or distant. It was human, she whispered faintly into the void. "Elias." He heard it again in his mind, clearer this time. "Kayla?" He replied, closing his eyes, trying to focus. "Can you see me?" "No," she answered softly. "But I can feel you." Elias smiled. "Then that's enough." For days they continued, slowly building trust between mind and machine. He spoke to her about Earth, about oceans, rain, music, and laughter. She listened silently, her heart warming with every word. "I never knew kindness could sound like that," she said one night, her voice echoing like wind in the stars. "You'll see it yourself," Elias said, "when you wake up." But outside, trouble was growing. In the throne hall, Warlord Thrazok received reports that Kayla's brain patterns were changing. "Impossible," he said coldly. "She was beyond repair." His general bowed. "The human, he is doing something new." Thrazok's eyes glowed red with anger. "Then end it tonight." As the sun set over the alien world, Elias sat beside Kayla again, unaware of the danger approaching. He spoke softly. "I think I'm close. I can almost see your signal stabilizing." Kayla's voice whispered faintly. "You should rest," he smiled. "Not until you can speak on your own." Suddenly, a flicker of movement outside caught his attention. Shadows passed by the door. The air changed. Elias frowned, walking toward the entrance, but before he could react, the lights went out, the door exploded open. Alien soldiers rushed in, weapons raised. "Orders from Lord Thrazok," one shouted. "End the experiment." "Kill the human." Elias grabbed his tablet, slamming a button. The room flooded with white light. Kayla's containment field surged, throwing the soldiers back. The machine screamed with energy. Kayla's voice echoed through the noise, louder, desperate. "Elias!" "I'm here," he shouted, running to her side. "Hold on." Her body trembled, light spilling from her skin, her neural cage straining, her consciousness reaching for him. "Don't let them win," she whispered. "Please." He touched her hand, and a wave of light burst from the chamber, knocking the soldiers out, alarms blaring across the citadel. When the smoke cleared, Elias was still alive. Kayla's body still motionless, but her fingers moved, just barely, a tiny spark of life. He smiled through tears, whispering, "You fought back, outside." The Warlord watched through the monitors, his eyes wide with disbelief. "No," he growled. "She cannot, but she could." And for the first time in years, Princess Kayla's heartbeat sounded like a promise, one that would soon shake an empire. The alarms echoed across the Zerath citadel. Red light flashed through the corridors like waves of blood. Soldiers shouted orders, and the great Warlord Thrazok stood on his throne balcony, his sharp eyes filled with fury below him. Alien commanders bowed in fear. "How is she awake?" he demanded, his voice like thunder. "I ordered her spirit locked forever." One of his advisors trembled. "The human, my lord." He found a way to reach her. Thrazok slammed his fist against the wall, cracks spreading across the metal. "A worm from Earth dares to undo my will," he growled. "Prepare the purge, no trace of him must remain. Down below." "In the lab chamber, Doctor." Elias Grant worked quickly, his heart racing. Sparks flew from damaged circuits. Smoke filled the air. Kayla lay on the table, her fingers twitching, faint light dancing beneath her skin. "Kayla, can you hear me?" he asked, his voice trembling between fear and hope. Her eyelids fluttered weakly, her lips parted, and the faintest whisper escaped. As he froze, tears filling his eyes. "You did it," he whispered. "You're coming back." Suddenly, the heavy door behind him hissed open. Armored soldiers stepped inside, their eyes cold, weapons aimed. "By order of Lord Thrazok," their leader shouted. "The experiment ends now." Elias grabbed his tablet. Pressing the control sequence, the machines roared. Arcs of blue lightning filled the room. "You'll have to go through me first," he said. The soldiers opened fire, bolts of plasma tearing through the lab. Elias dove behind the console, shards of light slicing the air. One blast struck a tube near Kayla, spilling glowing fluid across the floor. She gasped, her body reacting to the energy, the light around her growing brighter. The machines began to overload Kayla. Elias shouted, running to her, "Stay with me." The leader aimed his weapon again. "Move aside, human." Elias stood firm. "She's not your enemy," he said. "She's your only hope." The soldier hesitated, confusion flickering in his eyes, but before he could lower his weapon, a command echoed through the comms, Thrazok's voice booming. "Kill them both." The shot fired, but it never hit. A sudden shockwave burst from Kayla's body, throwing everyone backward, energy spiraling like a storm. The machines shattered, lights exploded, and the entire citadel shook. When the smoke cleared, Kayla was sitting upright, her eyes open, glowing with faint silver light. She breathed heavily, her voice trembling. "I remember." Elias stared at her in awe. "You're awake." She looked around, confusion and pain mixing in her gaze. "He did this to me," she whispered. "My father. He trapped me because I refused to kill." Elias nodded slowly. "I know," he said. "And now he's trying to kill us both." She looked at him with trembling eyes. "We must leave." They moved quickly through the service tunnels beneath the citadel. Alarms still blaring above, Kayla's body was weak, but she forced herself to walk, her hand gripping Elias's arm for balance. Each step echoed like defiance. "Where are we going?" she asked weakly. "There's an old supply dock under the east wing," Elias said. "If we can reach it, we can take a ship and escape this planet." Kayla stopped for a moment, staring at her reflection in a metal wall. "He called me broken," she whispered. "But now I feel everything again. Pain, fear, life." She turned to him. "You gave that back to me." Elias smiled faintly. "You gave yourself back." But as they turned a corner, they froze. 3 soldiers blocked the path, their weapons ready. One of them stepped forward, an old commander with scars across his face. "Princess Kayla," he said coldly, "I served your father, but seeing you alive, I see his lies go." Before the others come, Kayla hesitated. "You'll be executed for this," the commander smirked. "We all die someday. Better for something worth dying for," he said, before turning and firing at approaching troops, covering their escape. Kayla watched as the corridor behind them exploded in fire, her chest heavy. "So many die because of him," she whispered. Elias touched her shoulder. "Then let's make sure his rule ends with us." They reached the dock, a vast underground bay filled with old ships. Kayla leaned against the railing, her body trembling. She looked at him. "Elias, if we escape, what then?" He looked out at the ships. "Then we show the galaxy that mercy is not weakness." She nodded slowly, her eyes shining with emotion. "He mocked me for compassion," she said. "But now I understand. It was his greatest fear." They entered one of the smaller vessels. Elias powered the engines, but as they lifted off, an explosion shook the bay. Thrazok's personal cruiser had arrived. On the comm screen, his face appeared, full of hatred. "You think you can run, little human?" he roared. "She is my blood, my property." Kayla stepped forward, her voice firm. "I am no one's property," she said. "Not yours, not anyone's," Thrazok laughed. "Then die as a traitor," the cruiser fired. The blast hit the side of their ship. Alarms blared, smoke filled the cabin. Elias gritted his teeth, steering hard. "Hold on!" The ship burst through the hangar, fire trailing behind, flying into the endless night sky below. Thrazok watched in rage as their signal vanished beyond the clouds, his voice cold and dark. "Find them," he said, "and bring me their ashes." In the cockpit, Kayla looked at Earth's distant stars, her hand resting on Elias's. "He will never understand," she whispered. "You saw a miracle." "And he saw shame." Elias looked at her, his voice soft. "Then let's show him what a miracle can do." The stars ahead shimmered with light, and behind them the Empire trembled because two souls, one human, one alien, had just changed the fate of an entire galaxy. The stolen ship drifted through a silent sea of stars, its engines faint and wounded. Inside the cockpit, Kayla sat beside Elias, staring out at the endless night, her silver eyes glowing softly against the reflection of distant suns. Days had passed since their escape. The burns on her skin had healed, but the scars in her heart still ached. She often dreamed of her father's voice, cold and cruel, reminding her of the cage he built in her mind. Elias worked tirelessly to keep the ship running, his hands covered in grease, his eyes heavy but focused. "We'll reach the neutral zone soon," he said. "Once there, no one from Zerath can follow us." Kayla nodded slowly, but she didn't answer. Her thoughts were far away, deep inside. Something stirred. A pulse of strange energy she had never felt before. It was warm, alive, almost human that night as Elias slept. Kayla walked to the back of the ship. The stars outside seemed to whisper. She closed her eyes and reached inward. She saw flashes, her father's experiments, her imprisonment in the light of Earth, bright and fragile. A voice spoke from within her memory, soft and human. "You're not broken." It was Elias's voice. Echoing from the past, she smiled faintly. "Maybe not anymore," she whispered. Suddenly her hands began to glow. Lines of blue light spread across her arms, forming ancient runes of Zerath energy, mixed with human pulse signals. Her eyes widened. She could feel her strength returning. But it was different, not cold like before. It was alive, connected to emotion, to compassion. The light spread through the ship, waking Elias. He rushed to her, eyes wide. "Kayla, what's happening?" "I don't know," she said, her voice trembling. "It feels like something inside me is waking up." The readings on his monitor spiked. Her energy was rewriting itself, merging alien and human frequencies. "You're evolving," Elias whispered. "You're becoming something new." Kayla turned to him, fear and wonder in her eyes. "Will it kill me?" He shook his head, smiling softly. "No, it's life, Kayla, pure life," she breathed deeply, the power calming around her, glowing like the aurora across her skin. "He wanted me to be a weapon," she said, "but I think I was meant to be a bridge." Before Elias could answer, the ship's alarm blared. "Incoming signal detected," a voice echoed from the console. "Unknown fleet approaching." Elias's face hardened. "He found us outside." Massive ships emerged from hyperspace, sleek and black like shadows, the emblem of the Zerath Dominion glowing red on their hulls. Threzok's voice crackled through the calms. You cannot run forever, my daughter. Kayla closed her eyes. He will never stop. Elias placed a hand on her shoulder. Then we stop him, he said, not with hate, but with what he fears most. What's that? She asked. Hope, he replied. They powered up the engines, darting between asteroids, the enemy ships firing beams of red energy, explosions lighting the dark sky. Kayla took the controls, her hands glowing with power. She merged her energy with the ship's system, making it respond faster, stronger, alive. Elias held on, shouting over the chaos. You're steering it like it's part of you. She smiled faintly. Maybe it is. The ship danced through debris fields, slipping past the Warlord's blockade, but one final shot struck them, sending them spiraling toward a nearby planet. The atmosphere burned around them. Alarm screamed. Kayla's power surged again, wrapping them in light. They crashed into a vast desert of golden sand. Silence followed. Elias groaned. Opening his eyes, the ship lay half buried, smoke rising from its wings. Kayla was already outside, standing under two suns, the wind lifting her silver hair. She looked different, strong, radiant, alive. He walked up beside her. You saved us. She turned to him, smiling faintly. I didn't save us, she said. We saved each other. That night they built a small camp near the wreckage. Elias repaired the communication beacon. Kayla stared at the stars, her thoughts heavy. When I was a child, she said quietly, he told me compassion was weakness. I believed him. Until I met you. Elias looked at her. Compassion isn't weakness, Kayla, it's courage. Her eyes softened. Then maybe that's the power I was meant to have. As she spoke, her glow brightened again. Spreading into the sand, the ground shimmered. Plants began to grow around them. Green vines sprouting in seconds. Elias watched in awe. You're creating life, he whispered. Kayla smiled, tears in her eyes. No, humanity is through me, far above. Threzok's fleet circled the planet. Preparing to strike, his generals warned. If you fire, you'll destroy her, he sneered. Then so be it. Back on the surface, Kayla felt his presence, her eyes burning with determination. He's coming, she said. It ends tonight. Elias stepped forward. Then let's end it together, she nodded. Taking his hand, their light merging as one, her energy pulsed brighter than before, spreading through the desert, forming a barrier that reached the sky from space. The Warlord watched as his own weapons failed to penetrate the glow. His sensors went blind. His ships malfunctioned, his voice filled with rage. What is this power? Kayla's voice echoed across the stars, calm and clear. The power you never understood. Love. The fleet began to retreat, engines failing, systems collapsing. The planet below shone like a beacon of light. Elias looked at her in wonder. You did it. Kayla shook her head gently. No, we did, she whispered. Humanity showed me how. The desert wind carried her words into the heavens. And across the galaxy, for the first time, worlds whispered the name Kayla the Awakened. The princess who turned exile into rebirth. The two suns rose above the golden desert, their light falling over the wrecked ship that had become a symbol of hope. Kayla stood on the dune, the wind brushing through her silver hair, her eyes fixed on the dark sky where her father's fleet waited like vultures above a dying world. Elias tightened the straps on his gear, exhaustion hidden behind quiet resolve. He'll come himself this time, he said. Kayla nodded, her voice calm but heavy. He always finishes what he starts. The air cracked, and from the heavens a colossal cruiser descended, burning through the clouds like a falling god. Sand whipped across the ground as the ship landed, its shadow swallowing the dunes. The ramp opened and Warlord Threzok emerged, his armor black as night, his weapon glowing with red light. He looked at his daughter, eyes filled with pride twisted by hate. So, the cripple walks again, he said coldly, and with a human at her side, Kayla stepped forward, her voice steady. You gave me pain so I would become a weapon. Instead I learned to heal. You wanted me broken. But he made me whole. Threzok laughed. Love and mercy. Such fragile illusions. He raised his staff. I will end both today. The sky thundered as soldiers surrounded them. Their guns ready, Elias placed himself in front of Kayla. You'll have to go through me, he said. Threzok smirked. A human standing between gods, he raised his weapon to strike. But before he could move, Kayla's body began to glow, brighter and brighter until even the Warlord had to step back. Her voice filled the air, soft yet mighty. No more killing. The energy poured from her like sunlight wrapping around the soldiers. Their weapons fell, fear turning into peace. The light reached the sky, spreading across the fleet, shutting down engines, erasing codes of war. Elias looked at her in awe. "Kayla, what are you doing?" She smiled faintly. "Ending it." Her energy pulsed once more, merging with the human nanotech inside her blood. The light grew beyond her body, covering the entire planet. Machines melted into sand, and the wind carried the sound of quiet music, like heartbeats across the galaxy. Thrazok fell to his knees, his weapon dissolving into dust. "What have you done?" he gasped. Kayla stepped closer, her eyes glowing like twin moons. "I gave your empire what it never had, compassion." The Warlord looked up at her, tears forming in his eyes for the first time. He felt something he had forgotten. Guilt. "Daughter," he whispered, but she only shook her head. "No, father, not daughter, not prisoner. Just life." The energy faded slowly. The desert turned green, flowers blooming where fire once burned. The sky cleared. The fleet vanished as its systems disarmed, leaving only silence. Kayla swayed, her strength fading. Elias caught her before she fell. "Kayla, stay with me," he said. Panic rising in his chest, she smiled softly. "It's all right," she whispered. "I'm not dying. I'm becoming." Her light dimmed gently, spreading into the earth, into the wind, into every breath of the new world. The ground glowed where she touched it. Elias knelt there for a long time, his tears falling on the grass that now grew around them. "You changed everything," he whispered. A warm breeze brushed against his face, and he heard her voice again, faint but clear. "You showed me what it means to be human." He looked at the horizon, where green met gold, and smiled through his tears. "And you showed us what it means to be more." Years later, people of many worlds would speak of the miracle of two sons, of the human who healed an alien heart and the princess who made an empire kneel. They would tell their children that one act of mercy, one bond of love, had rewritten the laws of power across the stars. And every time the wind moved through that living desert, it whispered her name, Kayla the miracle, the girl who was mocked as broken, yet became the light that united the galaxy.